Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with a new PB&J card class, and today we are kicking off the first in a series of 11 videos of Share Your Love sketches. So these are card sketches that can be used to create cards that will send loving wishes to someone any time of year. So today's sketch looks like this. I love this sketch because I think it's really versatile. You have a die cut border along the top, embellished with some die cuts. They could be florals. You could even use this at Christmas time with branches or berries up there. And then your main image down below. So I have pre-prepped this sketch using Penny Black's Border Collection creative die set to cut all of those borders along the top. You can position them at whatever angle you would like. And then I also have the card bases. Every card is a standard 4¼ by 5½ inch card. Now, just a reminder that all of the sketches included in this Share Your Love card series are included in this ebook, a Share Your Love ebook, with a 2-page spread for each card sketch. So you can easily see the sketch, reference back to it, as well as the card ideas that go along with it. It's a really affordable PDF download, so I'll put a link down in the YouTube description box if you'd like to check it out and show your support. So to start off, I'm reaching into my stash to add some images to this sketch design. I am stamping these using Memento gray flannel ink, and I'm using a PITT artist pen to just lightly go over the eyes, nose, and mouth on these. I think that just gives them a little bit more life. So I've decided to go with these really tender and beautiful new stamps from Penny Black. Sweet Duo, Growing Love, Endearment, Love, and Love and Light will be the sentiment that I use with these. And I've just done this assembly line style and stamped a whole bunch onto that sketch design, which I'm giving you a look at there. Now that I have all my stamping done, I'm going to do some painting. I'm using Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors, as well as some Memento Toffee Crunch ink just pressed onto an acrylic block that I can pick up with water and my paintbrush. And I'm just going to begin painting these in. Now, I love pre-stamping and having just sort of this set that I can go to whenever I have a minute to do some painting. So I find if I have these things ready and easy to access, I'm much more likely to go towards this than, say, scrolling on my phone or just kind of mindless TV, because it's ready to go. So if I take away some of those difficult barriers to getting started, which for me can just be the ease of access, I really do find myself enjoying my hobby a lot more and using those items in my stash. So like I said, you can use this actual sketch for any time of year, for any type of image that you have that you love. But I just think these are the sweetest, most tender images. I wanted to get a whole bunch of them stamped and enjoy that painting process with them. Now, I will link for you down in the YouTube description box below. I'm going to link several things up for you. I've got the ebook download link there where you can purchase that. I will also link up to a video where I show my watercolor process in a lot more detail, some real-time painting. So I'll put that link for you there as well. But I'm just going in and painting these. My typical watercolor process is that I pick up the Distress Ink Reinker on my paintbrush. Then I put it down where I want the color to be the darkest. I will then rinse off my paintbrush in my water, pat my paintbrush dry, mostly dry on the paper towel, and then go back and blend or lighten up any areas on that. For these images, I didn't do too much shading because I feel like the illustration really adds all the detail that you need. So if you aren't an expert painter or colorer, you don't have to be with these. Just some variations, some areas light, some dark, or even a flat wash of color really looks beautiful. Now the gray flannel ink that I stamped with gives it a little bit of a no-line watercolor look because it's not quite as stark as just like a black ink stamped down. But if you want to do more of like a flat wash of color without much shading, a black ink really looks nice as well, or even a darker gray ink like an Archival watering can. That color is really nice for stamping as well. And you can color these with whatever medium you love, Copics, colored pencils, just whatever you like to use. Now I am just going in and adding a little bit darker color here up near the collar. It's really fun picking, for me to pick out like what colors to do the dress and their clothes. And it's also another way that if you use the same image multiple times, that it feels like a whole new look to it. So it's not boring coloring it the same. So you could also do a sketch like this one and stamp the same image on all the variations, but just change up the color choices that you use. And that can also kind of keep the process from being boring just by changing up the colors. So I'm just pressing that ink pad onto the acrylic block just a little bit more to get his shorts. Just I want that to be darker than his legs, but also just kind of like a khaki color. Here I'm going to go in and get his little vest. I think their clothes are so sweet too. Now, for their skin on these images, I use that Memento Toffee Crunch from my acrylic block, a little bit of dried Marigold Distress Ink Reinker used as watercolor, and then Spun Sugar Distress Ink Reinker used as watercolor for their cheeks. So have had some questions on other videos exactly what colors I'm using on the skin, and those are the ones that I'm using here. I am going to list and link for you all of my supplies down in that YouTube description box below. I'll link all of the Penny Black products, and then I'll list everything else I'm using. So the colors of ink, the watercolor colors, my paintbrush, everything else is listed for you down in that description box below if you're interested and want to check that out in more detail. So you can see there just putting that darker color in, patting off my paintbrush, and then blending that out. And I won't show you all of the ones, the painting for all of the ones that I stamped, but I wanted to give you a good look at most all of at least one of the images so that you could see how I painted those. Now, if there's two areas right next to each other, I will go in with my heat gun and dry that before I move on to a section that would be touching. So there I dried the shoes before I went on to paint the socks. Otherwise, wet paint moves into other wet areas. So if it's dry, you can get pretty close and not have anything bleed or blend. That's why you'll also notice sometimes I kind of jump around on the image while I'm painting. Just kind of letting one area dry before I do something right next to it. Get his bow tie up here. And depending on your color choices, you can also give this more of like a springtime feeling, or if you want to go more traditional kind of Valentine's love colors, you could do more reds and purples and pinks, and it gives a totally different look to the stamp. So lots, again, lots and lots of versatility. We'll go in here and get the seesaw painted. So putting down that paint, it's coming right from my palette onto the image. Then I rinse off my paintbrush, pat it on my paper towel, and blend out. So here you go, the darkest color right from the palette, the most concentrated, rinsing off the paintbrush and coming back to blend that out. We'll add a little gray here. And just a touch here on the ground to finish off the look. And then I went ahead and followed that same process to paint all of those that I had pre-stamped. So here is a look. You can see I'm working assembly line style, all the stamping, all of the painting, and then I will move on to the embellishing. It's just so sweet and cute. I just love them. I think that book one would be fun to give with a like a gift card to a bookstore. That's a great friendship one. This one I think even is fun for springtime or gardening. Just so sweet, and maybe an anniversary. Just lots of different ways that you can use these. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint. This is kind of the top part that's going to show behind where that border was die cut. So you could use colored cardstock here. You could ink your cardstock with distress inks. I'm just doing a little painting to get the first wash of color on and also to match up those blues nicely. Then I have grabbed some die cuts to embellish this. So I'm going to paint those. I find it's easiest just to have everything cut out of white and kind of pre-prepped in some envelopes. And then I can go in and paint them to match whatever card I'm working on. But you can do whatever works best for you. You could cut them from colored cardstock. It's really up to you how you what you like the most, but I'm just sharing with you how I like to do things. And I love the look that hand painted imperfection of the hand painting adds to the overall design, and I like how that ties in the die cut to the stamped and painted image. I'm also going to darken this up a little bit, so I have some distress ink on an ink blending tool on a foam pad. I'm starting off the edge and working my way on in a circular motion. Just adds a little depth to that. And I'm also going to use that Memento Toffee Crunch just to pat that onto those painted die cuts, and that just kind of evens out some of the color as well. So now I'm ready to add my sentiment. This is from the Love and Light, and you see I just had those die cuts on there so I could position that sentiment where I wanted it, and this is stamped with Archival watering can ink. And I'm ready to assemble the card. Now what I love about this sketch design is with that die cut border up at the top, you can layer some die cuts on top of your main panel and some peeking out from behind that border. And I think that adds just one little bit of interest, but it makes a big difference in the uniqueness of the card. So I'm just kind of adhering those down. And I'm just working on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, which I will then add to a card base once I'm done. And I like to pop this up using some foam tape, so I'll just add this on the back of the main panel. This is another tip too, if you've watercolored and you've added a little too much water and your paper is curling, foam tape is there to save you. If you put that onto the panel, especially if you thoroughly cover it, it will help flatten everything out for you. So just some minor adjustments. Then I will flip to the back and trim off any excess. And add one final embellishment up there, another die cut flower. And all of the exact dies and stamps are listed and linked for you down in the YouTube description box. And I will put a self-adhesive pearl on there. And the card is complete. So here is just a quick look, a still shot of that card, and then I will show you how I finished off all the rest of those ones that I have already stamped and painted. I had so much fun creating this. Those little images are so fun to paint and color, and I think just so unique and special. And again, this is a sketch you can turn to again and again with that border collection die to cut those borders up at the top. So there's the one we just finished. And here I will show you the others. You can see you can use some of those same embellishments, turn them in a little bit different direction, different color schemes. But it's a way to create a lot of cards too without having to make a lot of decisions for each card. That one is very similar to the first one we just did, but I used a different die cut, so it gives it a really different look. Just really fun to add some different floral embellishments up at the top. This one is one of my favorites. Here I just put my die cuts only underneath a sort of a background textural element. So that's another way you can modify this sketch. You can also stamp on that background or top part of the card. So that is another way you can modify that. Now before you go, this is just a reminder that this video is part of a series of sketches created to help you bust through your stash. So if you'd like to see how I did all my pre-prep and my setup for my stash and my sketch boxes, which is a really helpful system for getting in there and really using what you love, I'll link to that video down in the YouTube description box below. I've got still shots up here now for all of the cards. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'd love to know what your favorite is, if you could see yourself possibly using this sketch in the future. Leave me a comment below. I read each and every one and appreciate you so much. Remember, you can also continue to connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, as well as Penny Black's website and blog. And all of those are also linked for you down in that YouTube description box below. Thanks for watching and happy stamping.